All being well, Mark, I presume it's going to be a little more straightforward picking your side for this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, some of the boys have given us some decisions to make because some really good performances on Tuesday. So it gives us some variety and some options, which is what you want. You know, we've had that the majority of the times this year. We've been fairly consistent with the team, but I think over this block of games, I told the players a while back, we'll change teams, we'll move players around, we'll have to play different systems. And that showed on Tuesday. We had a good response from the players on Tuesday after the Shrewsbury game, and now we certainly get one or two back in the pack to select from on Saturday. So Paul Digby comes back in off of his one-game ban, which is helpful for us. Whereas Houlihan's available. Joey's obviously fresher from the game that's missed, and I think that's it in terms of ones that were unavailable becoming available for us. So yeah, looking forward to working out over the next couple of days the best way to go against a young, athletic and hungry team in Wimbledon, and looking forward to a match-up with a coach in Mark that I've played against a number of times in the youth team.
Yeah, he has a similar background to yourself, doesn't he? A more unusual background, if you like, getting into coaching.
Yeah, and has been at the club a long time and understands the inside of the football club and the culture of the club, and you can see that they've got a real spirit about them, the way in which they play. Similar to ourselves, they've got a real resilience, a real work ethic. They've got a good record coming from behind. Have scored a lot of late goals, and that comes from that identity and spirit and togetherness that we've got. So there are some similarities there in our journeys as coaches, but also in relation to understanding the club and building something that you want the club to be about. So we certainly know what they will have and the strengths that they've got. They're a young team, but that gives them incredible energy and athleticism throughout the team, and they're playing with a real spirit. Like ourselves, they've had some excellent results this season, and they've got some real threats in the team that we'll need to be aware of. And I think it builds itself to be a really good game. We've had some good ones over the years, and I'm looking forward to this one at the weekend.
With all of that in mind, have AFC Wimbledon changed a bit in terms of their style? Clearly having more young players into the side makes a difference.
Yeah, well, they've got a very clear model as to how they're trying to work. They're bringing some players through. They're working with some younger players in terms of ones that they're getting on loan. They've got an interesting structure to the staff in that last year that they had somebody across from the FA that was working with them, and this year a link with Chelsea where one of the coaching staff is from there. They work quite big in the psychology area. They've got interesting things around set plays and substitution coaches and things. So they're trying a different way. They've got a unique way of doing things, and obviously this year returned to the new ground. So they're a club that have found an identity again, probably that maybe wasn't quite there or wasn't quite understood, but he seems to have got that back in place, Robbo, and they know what they are, and I think they'll be pleased with their start to the season, similar to us in that respect, and now looking forward to going head to head at the weekend, and for us trying to complete the week with a really positive result.
Let's talk about some of the performances then from Tuesday night. Jack Iredale, obviously a really interesting one, did really well in there. Does that provide you maybe with something moving forward? We know he's done brilliantly at left back anyway, but is that an option you could look at again?
I think one of the things that we've had well is, and I did say this on Monday, whatever team we put on the pitch, we do want to look like a Cambridge team in the organisation and the spirit and togetherness that we have, and I thought we did that on Tuesday, which is testament to the staff and the players and the environment that they've created here, that we can do that. When things are tough and we have a challenge, we sort of rise to it. So I like that about us, and sometimes that means players playing in different positions. We've seen it last year. There's usually a time every year where Greg Taylor gets the nod walking down the path at training the day before a game, and he just goes, all right, I get it. He knows what's coming, because he usually has to fill one or twice in midfield, and this time it was Jack. He probably wasn't expecting that, but he's game. He'll throw himself into it. I thought he did brilliantly. Thought his discipline and understanding was good. Well, he was powerful, he made good interceptions, he was decent enough with the ball, and he helped an unfamiliar and inexperienced unit of the team really well. And the centre-halves helped him by the information that they gave him. So it was great for him. We know where he's best and where he's most comfortable, and I think he's having an excellent season. But he has got that flexibility to play as a wide midfield player, as a centre back, as a central midfield player. So we know that somewhere down the line, if needed, we can do that. Now that we've seen that option, so hopefully it doesn't have to happen too often, but it's certainly something that is becoming another option for us in the middle of the pitch should we need it.
With your goalkeepers, clearly last season you had two senior keepers, if you like, on the books. It's been different this time around with Dimmy and then the two younger ones. Did you always have, from the start of the season, did you always have in the back of your mind that the emergency loan system could be something that you utilise?
Yeah, well, once you have players that have played less than 5 senior games, you always have that option. So that was something that we'd always have in our minds should we need it. The challenge for Kai and for Will is to be developing, improving. Difficult to do when you have a long time between your games because you don't have that game exposure. But certainly players that can really push Dimmy day to day, and we wanted a defined line between who the number one was, and I think Dimmy's having an excellent season so far, and we're really pleased with him. Tough one for Kai last weekend, tough game to come into when you haven't played league games and you have to come into that sort of firing line, and therefore I think a really tough one for him, but also for us to understand that a little bit of league experience, someone who's played in the goal 150 times in this level, when we've had a week of quite a few players missing off the back of the result that we've had, I felt that experience behind us would help. So obviously we had that as an option. It doesn't mean that would always be an option. The pathway will still be there for Will and for Kai to support Dimmy, try and push to get in the team and gain some experiences and go out on loan to try and up their game numbers and game experience so that when the opportunities in first team games come, they are more ready for it. So it was certainly something we spoke about in the summer and looked at as an option. And this time around, we felt it was the right way to go to just give us that bit of experience in the team. And I thought Thomas did well. It's tough for him as well and tough for us to make so many changes. But he took on that role well on Tuesday. And Kai's dealt with that well and continues to train well and has to keep working to develop with Martin to wait for those opportunities because they do come at different times. And we've got the Papa John's game coming up in a couple of weeks, which is another game for him. But it is hard for a number of the players when the gap between your games is difficult. You know, there's a lot of players in the team the other day that hadn't played or started a game for 6 or 7 games. And that's tough because physically it takes its toll, but they did great.
Yeah, so overall then you're happy with where Kai's at, the expectations you had of him, the progress he's been making?
Yeah, him and Will, to be honest. And Will's obviously going to play a few games now out on loan, which will be good for him. And at some point in the year, that will be the right thing for Kai to get a run of games. I think everybody needs it. And we shouldn't separate goalkeepers from outfielders too often. We've said the same with lots of our younger players, that they do need that run of games. And we've got to try and find that balance in line between making sure we've got the squad we need, but the players are getting the exposure to games that they need. Whilst balancing the thing of we have to win games and be competitive. So there's a whole thing to balance all the time, individual development and long-term development of the team and of the individuals, and the short term of getting results to make sure that we are a really competitive team. So I'm pleased with Kai, I'm pleased with Will, I'm pleased with all the goalies actually, and the impact that Martin's had. He's working with the goalkeepers really well, and I think 6 months down the line, all of them will have improved dramatically and continue to develop as they have been over the last 12 to 18 months.
Is Dimmy getting on okay? Is the plan that he'll be all right for Tuesday?
Well, we hope so. You can't really say, because at any point, as you increase your physical activity, if you get symptomatic again, then you knock back a stage and it delays it. So if he continues at the rate he is and ticks off every box, then he'll be okay to play next Tuesday. But we need to see where he is. He's so far on track to do that. But again, we just need to see how that happens. He took a whack, cut his head open, and gets his stitches out later in the week. Knocked out for a little bit in the first period. So it's the right process to follow, obviously. And he's I think he's out doing some handling stuff today and see if he can tick that box. But hopefully by Monday he'll be back in full training should everything go to plan.
Cool, that's great from me.
Hi Mark. Firstly, how do you think Thomas got on Tuesday night, being thrown in at such short notice?
Yeah, I mean, fine. He kept a good goal. I think he took crosses well, kicked well. Off the floor, particularly from his hands, he was able to build a little bit more than we might have done, because at times we had a spare centre back to build through. I mean, there was one that he kicked in the first half that went up and almost ended back at him. And it tells you that it was quite windy when the ball goes into that sort of distance in the air. It was a game where a lot of it was low and you're sheltered from the conditions in the stadium like that. So, but in the main, I thought his distribution was good. He gave us a nice confidence, talked to the boys well. He's a huge presence in the goal, obviously. And we defended in a way that meant it was a lot of crosses. It was fairly simple opportunities that he had to save in and around him. There wasn't too many. Obviously, the goals are hit from distance, which is a good strike. But in the main, I think when you come in and joined us on Monday and trained with us, and you don't really know anybody's name and you're trying to learn how we're going to play, I thought he did a good job for us.
Yeah, and just to confirm on him as well, is this his last game on Saturday? He's not available for Tuesday night?
That just depends on the loan. It's a 7-day loan initially. You can apply for an extension if your goalkeeper hasn't recovered from a concussion. So as it stands, he would play Saturday and then go back with Ipswich, assuming that Dimmy is okay, and assuming that we chose not to extend it in the case that Dimmy wasn't okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just to pick up on what you said about how you set up on Tuesday night, it was quite a defensive performance from your side after you took the lead and you dropped off and let Doncaster have the ball. Is that something that you believe in a sense, your identity that you want to impose on this team, that you want to be more defensively solid, or is it more of a product of the strength of the league as to why you did that and why you did that against Sheffield Wednesday and Bolton, for example?
Well, we're Cambridge United and we should never forget it. When we're good, we can compete and get on top of games. I think the best stat you can ever roll out about us is the number of consecutive defeats we have and how we respond to bad days. And after Saturday, we needed to be defensively strong and organised in a team that was put together, particularly in the middle part of the pitch. We had to try and control a team that are excellent with the ball and have very good midfield players and get lots of players in the attacking line. And we would have had our pants pulled down if we'd have tried to chase after them in an unorganised way, just saying press, because the organisation of really trying to get that triggers and timing in a shape and team that hasn't been really built that way would be really difficult. So we're quite comfortable to be a team, and we have been for 18 months, that can defend periods without the ball. First half we were outstanding, counter-attacked and periods of control of the ball. We need to control the ball for longer in times when we have it, a bit like those teams have done, and perhaps make more use of the counter-attacks in situations, because we had chances to go 2 ahead in both games probably. And then that gives you a bigger and better cushion to try and protect. But our organisation, understanding of how to defend and counter against teams is excellent. We obviously built a team in the summer that showed it was going to play 1 up front more often than 2. We tried to add pace in wide areas because we know we're going to spend time without the ball and have to counter attack. And we need to make sure we've got enough cover on the pitch. The game's better for us when it's connected rather than stretched. And we've done reasonably well in that sense. So I was really pleased with the performance overall. There's always areas that you can improve and develop, but where we end up in 6, 12, 18 months' time is to be seen as time goes on. But certainly at the moment, we need to make sure that we are defensively sound, well organised and hard to create chances against. And we've conceded too many goals in recent weeks. So we need to make sure that we are stronger in that sense. To give ourselves the platform to win games.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, with a game at home against AFC Wimbledon on Saturday, is this more of a test of how you impose yourself on that one in terms of how you attack?
No, home or away doesn't matter. We can attack in certain moments with the ball. It's not necessarily about how dominant you are from start to finish or how you set up the team. We've set up the team to be attacking some games and been unable to get the ball back off the opposition or too open and things like that. So the home or away thing doesn't bother me one bit. We've got to be competitive in games. We've got to try it and turn some of the draws into victories. But quite simply, if we weren't as good as we have been, some of those draws could have been defeats and we'd be looking in a worse position than we are right now. We're in a strong position. Saturday gets us a third of the way through the season and we want to be in as strong a position as we can be at that point. But I think we've shown in the main to be a really well organised and strong structured team that has constant threats, have scored in nearly every game, Our goal scoring form in the last 18 months is excellent, and our creation of chances, and that's been in a way quite often where we haven't always had as much of the ball as the opposition. So we're not massively concerned about possession being the overall driving force behind how we play. We've got to make sure we dictate the opposition's chances when they get them, where and how they get them, and that we are a constant threat and a goal threat ourselves in games. So we have to always find the balance between those. It's not about being defensive or attacking or all-out attack or all-out defence. It's about trying to find a balance between both of those. We found it quite well, quite often. But this is a different league and a different challenge, and certainly more teams play and have possession of the ball in this league than in the previous league. There's more control, it's less frantic, there's more structure and organisation to the league. So that's a good challenge to try and overcome and get that balance right.
And at the same time as well, how important is it to get that first win in a while under your belts sooner rather than later, because it is now 7 games without a win, isn't it?
Yeah, and 2 defeats in 7, so it's not so bad. It depends how far you go back. 3 wins, 7 draws, and obviously if we can add a couple of wins quite soon to that, it will start to look like an excellent record and an excellent start. So we don't want to stay on 3 for too long, but we're very, very early on in the season, and the overall points target puts us on track for a decent return come 46 games. So I think game on game, you definitely want that. That's why Tuesday, when you're ahead, you hope you can hang on to that. Same with the Sheffield Wednesday game. But we're playing against good sides who create moments and who deserve their own opportunities in games as well, and we're getting close. And I think if we find the level that we found in the majority of the games so far, we know we can be a competitive team that turns a couple of those draws into wins. So yeah, we want them more than we want to win every game as much as we can. We want the next win to come as soon as possible, but we're not stressed about runs and records at the moment. It's overall points that really dictate where we're going to end up, and we're quite pleased with where we are so far.
Yeah, one other from me. On Joe Iron's side, obviously he was on the bench on Tuesday night, wasn't he? Was that a decision to rest him or not related? Why did you decide to bench him?
Yeah, we wanted a real mobile and quick front 3 because we knew counter-attacking was going to be important for us. Thought Sam did great. Actually, Sam, Shiloh, James, the front 3 were a real threat in the early stages of the game, particularly down our right-hand side. We carried a great threat. Shiloh was outstanding in the first half, and Sam also. He's had a couple of chances that he might have converted, but we were really pleased with his impact in the game. And Joey's played a lot of football and been battered a few times as well. So I think throughout this, we've seen different people come out the team and freshen up, which is really important in a busy run. So hopefully that's the case with Joey, and he benefits from that, and therefore we do. And as much as we didn't want Paul Digby to be out of the game on Tuesday, it might be just gives him an opportunity to try and get fresh again for the weekend. So I think it's important that we move players in and around, and we try and find the right games to do that for.